day, I went to pick up my son from school and happened to see the mother of one of his classmates elegant, with a pleasing face. I was about to smile and greet her when my son, Yiming, suddenly rushed out, standing between us. He looked at them and said coldly, "She's just our housekeeper, no need to mind her." Then he turned to me, his voice sharp and harsh. "How rustic! Don't show your face at school again, you're embarrassing me." I froze, a mixture of anger and sorrow overwhelming me. Back home, I told my husband, Zhang Baichuan, everything, hoping for some sympathy. But he merely gave me an icy stare and said words that only poured fuel on the fire. "Fine then. If in your eyes I'm just a burden, something that shames you, then I'll step aside. From now on, I'll only take care of myself, get beauty treatments, choose my own clothes. Whoever wants to play the role of unpaid nanny can go right ahead. As for me, I'm done." The very first day I let go, everything immediately fell into chaos. My son's clothes weren't washed, his homework was neglected, and he was late for school. The pampered young master, who used to be impeccably dressed like a child of nobility, instantly transformed into a sloppy, disheveled kid, no different from a street urchin. My husband couldn't keep his calm and exploded. "You used work as an excuse and abandoned our child. How can you live like this?" "Chin Yan, stop being so selfish." I merely shrugged slightly, my reply curt. "Yes, just like that." Both my husband and son seemed to be losing their minds, but I felt strangely lighthearted. From the moment I left the school gates, my face remained cold as ice. I sat motionless on the sofa, not bothering to cook or touch the pile of unwashed clothes. Young Yiming remained oblivious, as if the afternoon's incident had never happened, calling out to me as if I were a servant. "Mom, I'm hungry. Hurry up and cook dinner." I turned to give him a sharp look, then stated bluntly, "Don't call me Mom anymore. I don't have a disrespectful child like you." He flew into a rage, partly because his demands were denied, and partly because the fried chicken and hamburger I'd promised seemed to have vanished into thin air. That afternoon, I went to pick him up from school. From a distance, I saw him chattering happily with Xiao Zhu, his face bright and carefree. Next to Xiao Zhu was an elegantly dressed woman, undoubtedly her mother. I intended to go over and say hello, but my son transformed into someone else. The moment he saw me, his face immediately darkened, and he rushed over to block my path. "This is just our housekeeper. Don't bother yourselves with her." He didn't stop there. Turning to me, he instantly yelled, "Dress so shabbily, don't come to school anymore. You're embarrassing me, Mom." School was letting out, and parents crowded the gates, their gazes fixed on me, many filled with curiosity and surprise. Xiao Zhu's mother looked at me with concern, her brow slightly furrowed, without saying a word. I looked down at my old, worn shirt. For so long, I had worried about the household, not bothering to dress up. But I never imagined my own child would despise me for it. How ridiculous. I, the woman who had given up her career, taking on everything in the house, was now seen as a source of shame. Without a word, I raised my hand and slapped him hard. His cheek instantly flushed crimson. I quickly apologized to Xiao Zhu's mother, then turned and walked away, not bothering to look back. Behind me, I heard him wailing, crying, and running after me. He knew I was angry and feared missing his fried chicken meal. But looking at him, I only saw a fried chicken. Back home, he slammed his room door shut, not forgetting to shoot me a dagger-like glare. I looked at the cluttered living room, the bathroom full of dirty laundry, then sat silently on the sofa. 7 years as a full-time mother. Every meal, every nap, every medicine when he was sick, I handled it all. No one hired me, but I willingly took on the tasks like a real housekeeper. Yet today, this child, just for the sake of appearances, wiped away all my sacrifices. I didn't cook. He began to throw a tantrum, rolling around on the floor as if his food ration had been cut for a week. I didn't say anything wrong. If Mom doesn't go to work, what's the difference from a nanny? I'm going to tell Grandma. I thought my husband would teach him a lesson, but instead, he just frowned and turned to me, full of reproach. "Is it worth it? Why quarrel with a child? You promised to take him out to eat today. It's only natural he's angry." I scoffed, letting out a laugh. "Zhang Baichuan, are you serious? Your son is disrespectful, and when I discipline him, I'm the one in the wrong?" But his eyes remained filled with irritation. "Yiming is still young, what does he understand? But you letting him go hungry until now is truly too much." The boy shot me a triumphant glare, then toddled over to cling to his father, demanding fried chicken. Before they left the house, I spoke a definitive sentence. "If you two step out today, from tomorrow onwards, I won't care for this house anymore." Unfortunately, my only reply was the slamming of the door and their fading laughter. I sank onto the sofa, tears streaming down my face uncontrollably. For over 7 years, I had put my career on hold, burying myself in cooking, laundry, and childcare. I was no less capable than my husband who went out to earn money, but what did I get in return? An indifferent husband, a contemptuous son. I, a woman who sacrificed her youth to build a home, was ultimately just a silent shadow within it. Fine, if my existence bothers them, I'll withdraw. From now on, instead of washing clothes and cooking for others, I'll dedicate that time to caring for myself. Whoever wants to be an unpaid nanny can do it. I'm not taking the job anymore. That very night, I gathered all of Zhang Baichuan's belongings and threw them directly into the living room. Spending another minute sleeping with that rotten man felt like a waste of my life. Then I called my best friend and invited her to dinner. My husband and son went for fried chicken. Good, I wouldn't be outdone. After dinner, my friend and I headed straight to the shopping mall. Having missed out on myself for years, it was time to live for myself. From my appearance to my soul, I owed no one anymore. I bought the newly launched skincare line without a second thought. All the trendy designer clothes and bags, wrapped them up for me. A gym membership and beauty package, signed up for both. My best friend watched me spend money without blinking, her eyes wide with astonishment. Chin Yan, with this kind of spending, what if your husband reacts? I looked at the pile of shopping bags dangling from my arm and smiled faintly. What is he to me? This is my hard-earned money. Do I need his permission? With a free moment, I casually posted a status update on social media, marking a spectacular night of transformation. But before I could fully enjoy it, I saw Zhang Baichuan had already posted, tagging me with subtle malice. Dad took me for fried chicken. Son says he likes Dad the most. Accompanying it was a picture of the father and son clinging together, grinning broadly in front of a table full of fast food. I merely curled my lip. Looking down on me? I liked it out of formality. Then my friend and I headed to a bar for a few drinks. Afterwards, we strolled around a group of young men who called out to us, "Sister, big sister," sweetly, like pouring honey. My mood significantly lightened. On the dance floor, I cast off all my frustrations with every beat of the music. Despite my anger, I still understood that my child was young. Immaturity in thought was unavoidable. As a mother, I couldn't turn my back on him because of a few words. Around 11 p.m., I returned home, having already decided on a new approach to parenting. I thought my son would be asleep, but the lights in the house were still on. I always made him go to bed before 8 p.m. to ensure his health and academic focus. Yet now, he was nonchalantly playing with building blocks, as if nothing was wrong. A surge of anger went straight to my head. I yelled, "Zhang Yiming, do you know what time it is? Are you going to school tomorrow?" Normally, a single shout would send him obediently to bed. But today, with a brazenness I couldn't understand, he screamed back at me, "You broke your promise. What right do you have to tell me what to do? You just stay home and leech off Dad, you're worthless." I stood there, stunned, unable to believe my ears. This child, whom I had nurtured every day for 7 years, was now speaking words that cut like knives. I used to think he was young and didn't understand, but time and again, he pierced my heart with careless, malicious remarks. I walked over, grabbed him from the floor, and pulled him up. "Say that again. Who taught you to speak to your mother like that?" The feeling at that moment was one of helplessness, of breaking, of pain so suffocating it stole my breath. His eyes looked at me as if I were an enemy. He burst into tears but still cried out stubbornly, "Mom doesn't do anything. Everyone else has a mom who works. Only I have a freeloading mom who stays at home." Then he flailed his arms and legs wildly, hitting me as if venting all his anger. At that moment, I understood that this boy completely disrespected me. Zhang Baichuan rushed in from the outer room, pushing me down onto the cold floor. "Chin Yan, you've been drinking. What are you raging about? Scaring our child like this isn't enough. How much more do you plan to embarrass me? Go wash the clothes and clean up. I'll put our son to bed." I lay on the floor, watching the father and son walk into the room. They coordinated as if everything was natural. I was cast aside, an unnecessary presence. I sprang to my feet, bent down to pick up the dirty clothes scattered on the floor, and without hesitation, threw them directly at the father and son, who stood there like two statues. This morning, I made it clear. Once you step out of this house, don't expect me to intervene anymore. Whoever wants to wash those clothes can. I'm not touching them. My son paused, his face still wanting to play more tricks. I slapped him, a resounding crack, pointing directly at his reddened face, my voice as cold as ice. You don't need me to teach you, do you? Very good. From this moment on, I am no longer your mother. The boy burst into sobs, his cries echoing throughout the house. I kicked away the toys blocking my path, turned, and walked straight to my room, ignoring the two figures stunned behind me. From today, I would not lift a finger for anything related to them, nor would I spend another penny on them. Once my mind was clear, my heart no longer felt grieved. Instead, there was a strange sense of relief. I took a long hot shower. Just as I lay down, Zhang Baichuan stormed in, his face dark and furious, like a fire about to erupt, spreading across the room. What's wrong with you today? Did Wen Jing instigate you again? I've warned you countless times, you can't be friends with women like her. She's surrounded by men. If you're not careful, you'll get dragged into trouble. The things you bought today were definitely her idea. Return them all tomorrow. I had initially closed my eyes, intending to sleep, but hearing that, I was wide awake. All drowsiness vanished without a trace. Do you want to die? Then I'll grant your wish. I spend my own money, what I buy is my right. What right do you have to order me around? The men around Wen Jing are 10 times better than you. Unable to compete, you resort to slandering them. Truly, a narrow mind sees everyone as dirty. Zhang Baichuan's expression instantly changed. I knew I had hit a nerve. Living together for so many years, I knew exactly what bothered him. He had once tried to befriend Wen Jing because he saw her succeeding, but she hadn't bothered to notice him. Now, he was consumed by jealousy. Are you insane? He roared, then spun around and stormed out, not forgetting to throw back a parting shot. Go to sleep. We'll talk when you've sobered up. I let out a weary, bitter laugh. He probably thought I was having a childish tantrum, imagining I'd collapse and cry, then eventually back down and apologize. He didn't understand that the feeling of freedom for someone no longer bound was a luxury for a man like him. The next morning, my son's desperate sobs woke me up. I checked the clock 8:00 a.m. Oh, well, he was going to be late for school then. The feeling of not having to rush to make breakfast was truly a privilege. I stretched comfortably, lay there for a few more minutes, then finally got up to watch the drama unfold. The boy had slipped on a pile of toys on the floor, and his forehead had a small, shallow cut from one of them, enough to make him wail loudly. Just then, Zhang Baichuan stumbled out of the master bedroom, his clothes still disheveled. Seeing his son sprawled on the floor, he panicked and immediately switched into the role of a devoted father. The boy immediately rushed into his arms, sobbing. Dad, I'm going to be late for school. Being late means losing points. It was clear Zhang Baichuan had also just woken up and hadn't expected me to truly ignore everything. Seeing me stand there with my arms crossed, watching as if entertained, he snapped. What are you still doing standing there? Can't you see our son is hurt? Go get a Band-Aid. I let out a long yawn and replied indifferently, Oh, his forehead is scraped? That's too bad. My son was a child who cared greatly about his appearance. Now with a scraped forehead, he cried as if the world was ending. Seeing that I wasn't the least bit moved, Zhang Baichuan had to rummage for supplies himself. After tearing through every drawer, he still couldn't find a Band-Aid, infuriated to the point his face was bright red, ready to burst into flames. You hid it, didn't you? Where did you put it? If you can't even see it right in front of your eyes, then there's nothing to be done. Who can you blame? He seemed about to lunge at me, but quickly remembered the urgent situation his son was truly late for school. The boy attended a private school where everything was strictly regulated, like a military academy. Being late was a serious offense, especially with Xiao Zhu, the class monitor. He secretly liked a child so serious that even adults were wary of her. So Zhang Baichuan frantically helped his son change clothes. Where are my clothes? I was too lazy to answer, just arched an eyebrow at him, then turned away as if there was nothing to worry about. Before, every morning I would wake up early, select fresh, clean clothes for my husband and son, fold each crease neatly, and place them on the sofa. It was like a ritual, the start of a day for a perfect mother. Thinking back on that habit now, I only felt stifled, wanting to slap myself. Look on my face for them. Maybe if you call, they'll come running. I spoke blandly, not even bothering to glance at him, then calmly turned on the projector to start my usual yoga session. Zhang Baichuan glared at me with malice, somehow pulling out a messy set of clothes, putting them on haphazardly, then dragging his son out of the house, hair disheveled like a bird's nest. The father and son rushed off in a hurry, not even touching breakfast. My son's voice echoed in the hallway. Dad, I'm so hungry. Hearing it, I felt both pity and amusement. I prepared a full breakfast for myself and ate leisurely after my yoga session. While eating, I sketched out the preliminary content for my afternoon interview. Before I could even stand up to clear the table, my phone rang. It was my son's homeroom teacher. Without hesitation, I decisively rejected all incoming calls. Yiming was no longer my responsibility. His school troubles no longer had anything to do with me. The teacher patiently called a few more times. Finally, she resorted to sending angry messages. "Are you Yiming's mother? What's going on at your house today?" Yiming wasn't just late for school. He wasn't wearing his uniform. He was filthy and messy, his face unwashed, and he didn't even do his homework. "What kind of mother are you?" She continued to vent her anger. "You need to come to school immediately today." I had intended to ignore it, but to avoid prolonged annoyance, I simply replied with a single line. "Yiming's father and I have officially divorced. From now on, Yiming's affairs have nothing to do with me. Please delete my number and don't bother me again. See you if fate allows." After sending it, I immediately blocked the number. The space around me suddenly became quiet, light, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. Finally, my phone truly belonged to me. Before leaving the house, I stopped by the bathroom and discovered Yiming's uniform lying tattered in the washing machine, water overflowing onto the floor. The uniform was already worn and stained. The washing machine seemed beyond repair. Zhang Baichuan was truly the type of person who could destroy everything with his carelessness. When I arrived at my best friend's company for the interview, I was just on time. The entire interview went so smoothly that I felt like I was reliving my eager student days. The job I applied for was an assistant in the finance department, mostly handling minor support tasks. But precisely because of this, I had more opportunities to observe and get acquainted with the company environment. On my way home, I happened to pass a woman. The scent from her suddenly made me pause, strangely familiar. I was about to turn my head to look when my phone rang. It was for the second job I had taken. For 7 years as a full-time mother, my academic skills hadn't improved much, but I had become an expert at helping my child with homework. Instead of wasting time on an ungrateful child like Yiming, I decided to invest my energy in obedient children who also provided a stable income. Now, every penny I earned was a part of my pride, a measure of my independence. A woman without financial autonomy, no matter how much she sacrifices, is often disregarded, even labeled as a useless freeloader. When I arrived at the new student's house, I couldn't help but be surprised the person I was to tutor was Ziozu, the very girl my son used to like. Ziozu was a fair-skinned girl, neat and polite, making her endearing at first sight. Throughout the lesson, she listened attentively, never getting restless. We finished her homework early and even learned an ancient poem. Just as the lesson ended, Ziozu's mother returned. She clasped my hand, her eyes sparkling with joy. "You're Yiming's mother, right? Oh my, you look so young. I heard you're a great teacher. I won't spare any tuition money if you agree." I smiled gently and nodded. Ziozu's mother was a strong, single woman. We had a silent understanding and didn't mention the incident at the school gate the other day. Very quickly, we became close. When she learned I had left my role as a full-time mother, she couldn't hide her delight and even encouraged me. "Women must step out of the kitchen. Don't let your youth wither within 4 walls." I had intended to decline the dinner invitation, but was ultimately persuaded to stay. During dinner, we talked about everything from starting a business, raising children, to balancing work and family. The atmosphere was unusually intimate. By the time I returned home, night had completely fallen. I stepped inside, my smile still lingering, only to be met with a suffocating atmosphere, as if a storm was waiting to erupt in the living room. On the sofa, Zhang Baichuan sat silently, his face grim, while my son's lips were tightly pursed, his small eyes gleaming with undisguised resentment. Everything in the house now resembled a battlefield after a war. Dirty clothes lay scattered everywhere, belongings strewn about haphazardly, the floor sticky and grimy, so much so that every step I took felt like treading in a puddle of mold. I paid no mind, simply bent down to take off my shoes, then turned to enter the bedroom. It was Zhang Baichuan who shattered the knife-sharp silence. "Do you know Yiming was late for school today? He neglected his homework and was punished to stand for an entire class. The moment I finished work, the teacher called to question me. 'Don't you have anything to say?' The child immediately chimed in, his voice full of indignation. It's all Mom's fault. Ziozu said I was dirty and wouldn't play with me anymore. I merely let out a faint chuckle, my voice flat, as if discussing dinner plans. So what? If the teacher came looking for you, then you talk to them. It has nothing to do with me. Zhang Baichuan's face turned beet red with anger, a vein throbbing in his neck, but he still tried to suppress it. Qin Yan, that's enough. Do you think your son and I can't live without you? Don't fantasize that you're the center of the universe. I now clearly understood that in their eyes, all my reactions were merely childish tantrums, nothing more. Perhaps because he had his father's backing, the boy became even more insolent. Nasty woman, Mom can't do anything. Mom eats Dad's food, lives in Dad's house, so Mom has to listen to Dad. And Zhang Baichuan, he just sat there as if he hadn't heard anything problematic, truly incurable. I didn't want to argue further and calmly stated, I've accepted a job. I'll start working next week. As for everything else, please don't mention my name. Hearing this, Zhang Baichuan suddenly exploded. Using work as an excuse to shirk responsibility, even abandoning our child. Qin Yan, you're being utterly selfish. I subtly curved my lips as if I'd just heard a joke. Yes, that's exactly who I am, he stammered. What kind of attitude is that? I mimicked his tone exactly, throwing back a nonchalant reply. Think what you want, I have nothing more to say. He seemed to freeze for a few seconds. I continued, unwavering. Fighting every day, you've ruined this house's good fortune. If you can't live together, then just get a divorce. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving the stunned father and son behind. I thought then that a divorce between Zhang Baichuan and me was inevitable, but I never expected him to call his mother to intervene. My mother-in-law, a woman accustomed to living in luxury. When her husband was alive, she was pampered like a princess, never having to do any chores. After my father-in-law passed away, she quickly remarried and continued her life like a precious porcelain antique, always placed on a glass shelf. How could such a person care for anyone? By midday, she actually knocked on my door. Yan Yan, what should we eat for lunch, dear? Her eyes sparkled with anticipation, making me immediately understand she was hinting that I should go cook. I turned my face away, my voice calm. I'm not hungry, Mom, don't worry about me. She stood there, seemingly surprised, then after a few seconds her expression turned pitiful. But I'm so hungry, it's been a long time. Aren't you going to cook anything? Her voice was like a young girl pouting, her eyes welling up as if waiting for someone to comfort her. I instinctively understood why so many men were willing to pamper her like a goddess. She truly was a master at making others soften. It was just a pity I wasn't one of them. I turned back to my laptop, not bothering to respond further, treating her like a passing breeze. Not getting the attention she desired, she quietly turned away, surely to go complain. And indeed she did. Less than 5 minutes later, Zhang Baichuan stormed in like a hurricane, his voice full of indignation. Qin Yan, I've tolerated you enough. Even if you're upset with me, what did my mother do wrong? Is this how a human being behaves? The child also wailed from behind him. I don't need Mom anymore. I want Aunt Fang to be my mom. Zhang Baichuan, in his rage, immediately changed his expression, rushing to cover his son's mouth. But it was too late. I had heard every single word clearly, like a cold knife piercing my chest. Aunt Fang, well, so that's how it is. So he already had a replacement for me. Others might think they'd found a treasure, but I felt lighthearted, even overjoyed. I pretended not to hear anything, glancing at the three of them with a sarcastic look, my voice unable to hide my contempt. Then let's end this. Sign the papers today and move your things out of my house tomorrow. Zhang Baichuan looked visibly flustered, and my mother-in-law's face turned as red as a ripe gak fruit. This house was in my name, so even if we divorced, he and the boy would be the ones to move out, no one else. As if a nerve had been struck, Zhang Baichuan roared, Qin Yan, you'll regret this. When I get rich later, don't even dream of begging me to come back. I couldn't help but laugh at his wild delusion. How could he dream such things in broad daylight? A man like that dreaming of getting rich was like trying to climb a tree to pluck stars. I delivered a kick to him, ignoring the sobs of his mother and son. I made myself clear. I will never regret this. Go to the divorce proceedings immediately. Anyone who doesn't go is nothing but a coward. But the man who had just been shouting stood still like a wooden statue, not moving an inch. Looking so disheveled, how can you go out? I looked at his crumpled, distorted clothes and almost laughed out loud. Oh, so you do have some shame? Zhang Baichuan's face was as red as a ripe tomato, but he seemed to fear I truly wanted a divorce, so he clung there, refusing to leave. No matter what I said, he wouldn't budge. I gave up, no more wasting time. My business today was more important than confronting a man like him. I hastened to Xiao Zhu's house. It was the weekend, and Xiao Zhu's mother had scheduled a full afternoon of lessons with me. Being around well-behaved children was truly pleasant, and time passed quickly. Around 4 p.m., Xiao Zhu had an online test. Her mother pleaded with me to stay for dinner. I couldn't bring myself to refuse and also wanted to see her academic results. The test results came in after dinner. Xiao Zhu was at the top of her class. Meanwhile, my adorable son, without my constant pushing, had seen his grades plummet to the very bottom. I remembered Xiao Zhu used to be around the top 10. Her leap to first place was truly surprising. Her mother was overjoyed, not only increasing my fee, but also thanking me repeatedly, seeing me off with a warm, appreciative smile. When I returned home, I didn't see Zhang Baichuan, and my mother-in-law was nowhere to be found. Only my son sat forlornly on the sofa, his eyes red and swollen. I didn't bother asking anything, intending to go straight to my room to rest. But the boy called out to me, his voice choked, "Mom, you don't love me anymore, do you?" His voice trembled, but I found something ironic about it. When he hurt me, did he ever think that one day I might stop loving him? To bring up feelings now, to try and hold on to me was too late. Nevertheless, I pretended to be calm and asked, "What's wrong?" Seeing my response, the boy immediately burst into tears, his face truly pathetic. I had raised him for 7 years, and at that moment my heart did ache slightly. "Xiao Zhu says all her homework is taught by you, Mom. Now you love her and you don't love me anymore, right?" I didn't deny it, nodding in confirmation. "Xiao Zhu is such a good child, everyone loves her." As soon as he heard my decisive words, he started wailing, as was his habit. "No, even if you divorce Dad, you can only love me. You don't have the right to love anyone else." His emotions exploded like fire, his face contorted with anger. Any remaining affection I had for him vanished in an instant. Truly a selfish person, never acknowledging his own faults, only good at forcing others. I curled my lip coldly. "The more you act like this, the less I can love you. If you want to cry, go cry by yourself." The boy cried louder, grabbing a pillow from the sofa and throwing it at me. I didn't hesitate to pick it up and throw it back, making him stumble. Did he think I, as an adult, would always indulge him? The boy lunged, intending to hit me. Just then, Zhang Baichuan and his mother walked through the door. The sight that greeted them was me holding my son firmly on the sofa, sternly admonishing him. My mother-in-law gasped in alarm but didn't dare to intervene. Zhang Baichuan reacted as before, about to yell, but the moment his eyes met mine, he froze, quickly softening his voice, stammering to find words of reconciliation. I glanced at the numerous bags in their hands, letting out a silent chuckle. So they went shopping, it made sense. 3 people living together, but no one knew how to do laundry, so naturally, they had to buy new clothes when the old ones got dirty. The washing machine had been broken for days, and no one cared. My eyes drifted over one bag. Peeking inside was women's underwear, a youthful style that was hard to mistake. My son, seeing rescuers, rushed over to Zhang Baichuan, sniffling and whining. "Mom won't teach me anymore. Mom's teaching little Xiao Zhu instead." Zhang Baichuan's expression immediately darkened. Clearly, the homeroom teacher had just called him again. "Qin Yan, you're abandoning your own child to teach someone else's. Is that being a mother?" I curled my lip, finding his words nothing short of a joke. "He said he didn't need me to teach him, remember?" I replied with a cold voice. My son froze, his eyes red and tearful, then burst into a downpour of tears. Zhang Baichuan's face turned purple with rage, but in the end, he remained silent. I again glanced at the bag containing the underwear. As if a nerve had been touched, Zhang Baichuan hastily hid it behind his back. I still didn't know the identity of his little girlfriend, but the fact that he dared to bring such items home, well, the day of exposure wouldn't be far off. "But you can't either." "Why not?" I cut him off, refuting immediately. "You've lived like this for 7 years, I'm just learning from you." This time, he was completely speechless. I smiled faintly. "Being a man is truly too easy. Just hand over a few spare coins each month, and you don't have to worry about anything else." My mood was excellent. I hummed a tune and calmly returned to my room, leaving behind my mother-in-law's unwilling glare. If Zhang Baichuan's work became increasingly busy, she should prepare herself to take care of Yiming. Her good fortune was still long. The next day, I started my new job. My best friend placed me in the finance department, directly under a department head named Fang Lan. As soon as I met her, I subtly recognized a familiar scent on her. It took me a moment, but then I remembered this scent had once lingered on Zhang Baichuan, even though he usually reeked of cigarette smoke. Add to that my son's accidental mention of someone called Aunt Fang. At this point, everything was crystal clear. Before, I had been troubled not knowing who the third party was, making it difficult to investigate marital assets. Now it was easy. Both of them were right in front of me. How convenient. Fang Lan followed the proper procedure, guiding me through my new tasks. No one knew I was a shareholder in the company except my best friend. I cultivated the image of a woman over 30, recently divorced, having lost custody of her child, now trying to start over from scratch. Most colleagues looked at me with a mix of pity and sympathy. Initially, Fang Lan kept her distance, but after learning that I was divorced and hadn't even won custody of my child, her attitude immediately changed, becoming especially concerned. I understood. What she feared most was the issue of a stepchild. A man with a child from a previous marriage who couldn't cut ties with his ex-wife, that was what she wanted to avoid at all costs. She often tried to probe me about my current relationship with my ex-husband's family, even directly asking if Zhang Baichuan planned to have more children. Once, she hastily asked if I was trying to win back custody of my child. Looking at her face then, it was as if she feared I would pick up the junk she was trying to gather into her own home. Each time I was asked, I feigned weariness but still replied, "Since I'm a subordinate, if I plan to take my child back, I will certainly demand the highest child support. I don't need his money, and his mistress shouldn't even dream of getting a penny." That cold statement left Fang Lan flustered, changing the subject and awkwardly offering a few words of comfort. I watched her retreating figure, knowing that the time for her to push for marriage would come soon. Before, I always found it puzzling why Fang Lan would throw herself into Zhang Baichuan's terribly lacking situation. She wasn't young, but her appearance, abilities, and circumstances were not bad. Was she truly blindly in love? It wasn't until a recent meeting that I found a clue. It turned out that my company and Zhang Baichuan's company were collaborating on a large project, and the two main people in charge were none other than Zhang Baichuan and Fang Lan. My intuition told me that something wasn't right. I immediately requested all relevant documents from my best friend and spent an entire day and night studying them. Finally, I found what I needed. In this project, my company only served as a capital provider, while the entire implementation process was handled by Zhang Baichuan. To my surprise, Fang Lan and Zhang Baichuan had colluded to create a system of fake accounting books to share a considerable commission. Although they had cleverly concealed everything, the financial report Fang Lan submitted showed no obvious loopholes. However, in a rarely examined part of the documentation, I still found suspicious signs. I estimated roughly that if this plan succeeded, both of them would easily pocket a sum of tens of millions. No wonder Zhang Baichuan had loudly declared he would definitely change his life. It turned out there was a premeditated scheme. As soon as I discovered this, I immediately reported it to my best friend. Her reaction was to halt the project immediately and report it to the authorities. But I stopped her. I was waiting for the right moment to end this marriage. Moreover, if those two were removed, the project still had very high profit potential. So, I began to systematically gather evidence proving the dubious link between Fang Lan and Zhang Baichuan in manipulating data for illicit gains. Fang Lan often secretly called Zhang Baichuan in the stairwell area, her voice overtly sweet, and she would subtly mention their shared future after this matter was concluded. I quietly recorded all these conversations, serving as both evidence of financial fraud and irrefutable proof of Zhang Baichuan's infidelity. I didn't forget to consult with my lawyer, and the conclusion only strengthened my resolve. If I proceeded with the divorce, I would certainly have the advantage. I wouldn't just be able to force his mother and him out of my home, but could also demand commensurate compensation for the 7 years I had sacrificed everything for this household. On my way home, I couldn't hide my glee. I even deliberately made an implicitly suggestive remark to Fang Lan. When I divorce, every penny he spent on his mistress will be accounted for, and our savings will be split evenly. I won't lose anything. The moment I finished speaking, Fang Lan's face darkened, clearly showing panic. Just as predicted, that evening when I returned home, Zhang Baichuan immediately brought up the topic of divorce. Sitting beside him, his mother also chimed in. If you're breaking up, then assets must be split in half. This house is a wedding gift, so my son has a right to his share. For all these years, he has supported you with every single penny. We need to record that clearly. Zhang Baichuan nodded, not hesitating to declare, Qin Yan, over the past 7 years, I've spent no less than $1 million on you. Now that we're divorcing, you must pay it back. Looking at their greedy faces, I merely curled my lip into a smile and presented the power of attorney from my lawyer. Let the court decide who is right and who is wrong, then it will be clear. As their eyes scanned the lines of the document, their faces gradually turned pale. They couldn't have imagined that, in reality, for all those years, I had never spent a single penny of Zhang Baichuan's money. I had income from company dividends sufficient to cover all my personal expenses. The $1 million he spoke of was actually for tuition fees, clothes, and international tutoring classes all spent on the child. But the crucial thing was that none of those expenses were related to me. For 7 years, I had taken on the roles of babysitter, tutor, and housekeeper, completely unpaid. If calculated carefully, I could even demand compensation for my labor. As for this house, if I didn't make him pay rent, I had already been far too lenient. And to demand half. That was truly dreaming in broad daylight. Looking at their bewildered faces, I felt incredibly lighthearted. I advise you to prepare thoroughly from now on. If you want to sue, go ahead, but you should also know it will be very time-consuming. Zhang Baichuan's face turned ashen. Perhaps he thought he had prepared well enough for this day. Little did he know I had prepared far more meticulously than him. Not to mention, Fang Lan was pushing him every day. If he didn't divorce soon, that 10 million might very well be split in half for me. After some deliberation, disregarding his mother's stunned gaze, Zhang Baichuan agreed to all the conditions I proposed. For him, retaining the majority of that 10 million was the crucial point. The very next day, we finalized the divorce procedures. Fortunately, current procedures no longer required a mediation period, otherwise, it might have dragged on for months. Zhang Baichuan had to pay me compensation worth 1 million. He didn't have the cash readily available, and I didn't know where he had scrambled to borrow it from. That afternoon, Fang Lan walked into the company with a face that was both excited and anxious. It turned out she was the one who had paid Zhang Baichuan for the divorce. I truly couldn't help but admire her audacity as a mistress to go this far. Fang Lan even eagerly asked everyone for advice on changing houses. Someone joked, "Sister Fang, are you planning to start a family?" Fang Lan blushed, tacitly confirming it. A few days later, Zhang Baichuan asked me for 2 days to pack his belongings. Then all 3 of them, him, his mother, and the child, left the house. That evening, as I left work, I ran into Fang Lan just as expected. She was undoubtedly there to gloat about her ultimate victory. When she saw me step through the door, she started, stammering, "Qin Yan, why are you still here? You two are divorced, aren't you?" I calmly hung up my bag, smiling as I replied, "Yes, divorced. Just yesterday." Inside the house, Zhang Baichuan's and his son's belongings were largely gone. Just then, the boy rushed out from some corner, embracing me tightly, refusing to let go. "Mom, please don't leave me, I was wrong. I'll listen to you forever now, okay, Mom?" Across from me, Fang Lan looked as if she'd been struck by lightning when she heard the child call me Mom. She was bewildered, her eyes darted around, then froze as she realized I was Zhang Baichuan's ex-wife. Her expression visibly changed from awkwardness to anger. "Qin Yan, so you knew about him and me all along, and you stayed silent and even gave me those tips. Are you playing games with me?" I gave her a cool glance, the corner of my mouth curving slightly as if I had no intention of hiding anything. "Yes, I was playing you. What's so strange about that?" Before anyone else could react, Zhang Baichuan came up the stairs. The moment he saw me standing in front of Fang Lan, he lunged, not even asking why, and yelled loudly, "Qin Yan, what did you say to Lan again? We've broken up. Doing things like this only makes me despise you more." Fang Lan's spirits lifted as she heard him defend her, her gaze directed at me as if she had won. I let out a faint laugh, then bent down and gently pushed my son away. "Go find your Aunt Fang, quickly." "Didn't you say you wanted her to be your new mom before?" My icy gaze was like a dagger plunged into the boy's heart. He froze, his entire body seeming to collapse. Fang Lan, though unwilling, still had to bend down to soothe him. But the boy wasn't so easily appeased. He unleashed all the mischievous tricks he used to play on me onto her. He even lunged at her, hitting her wildly and pinning her to the floor. Fang Lan was caught off guard, and Zhang Baichuan frantically tried to intervene but couldn't stop him. I stood there, my eyes silently watching, without saying a word. A flicker of sarcasm crossed my eyes, then I turned and returned to my bedroom. From the drawer, I took out what I had been secretly preparing all this time, a gift for their new small family of 3. That very night, I emailed the CEO of Zhang Baichuan's company. Attached were all the proofs of his and Fang Lan's fraudulent activities in the recent project. Every detail was meticulously documented. Early the next morning, the regular meeting between the two companies to discuss the project was held. In the past, I was just a small intern, not qualified to enter the main conference room. But today was different. I wore an elegant suit, coffee in hand, and calmly walked straight to the head of the table and sat down. Fang Lan and Zhang Baichuan were already there. Looking at the two of them, it wasn't hard to tell that last night hadn't been peaceful. Both were silent, their faces so tense they didn't even bother to utter a greeting. When Fang Lan saw me calmly sitting in the presiding position, her eyes seemed to explode. "Qin Yan, do you have a problem? That chair is for the CEO, and aren't you just a finance intern? Don't tell me you're quitting today." Zhang Baichuan glanced at her, then seemed to wake up. Finally, he realized that the person Fang Lan had once disparaged as incompetent was me. However, because there were many people in the room, he didn't want to make a scene. I ignored him, just tilted my head, glanced at Fang Lan, and softly said, "How does it feel to be a stepmother?" Fang Lan, furious, was about to retort when the door opened. Wen Jing, my best friend and also the CEO of Zhang Baichuan's company's partner, appeared. The moment she saw me, her eyes lit up. Ignoring the surrounding stares, she walked straight to me and hugged me tightly. "Yan Yan, you finally decided to step forward and help me." Zhang Baichuan understood the relationship between Wen Jing and me, so his reaction wasn't too strong, but Fang Lan was the opposite, her face distorted, her eyes burning with jealousy when she saw our intimacy. Wen Jing quickly introduced me to Director Yang, the CEO, on her side. After a few pleasantries, everyone took their seats. When the atmosphere settled, Wen Jing stepped forward, her voice clear and decisive. "From now on, the entire collaborative project will be overseen by Ms. Qin Yan. She is one of the main shareholders of our company, and I believe she is fully capable of handling this task." A round of applause filled the room. Although no one knew when I had become a shareholder, no one dared to object. Fang Lan was speechless, her eyes wide with shock, and finally, unable to bear it, she stood up and exclaimed loudly, "CEO Wen, why are you sidelining me? I've been with this project from the beginning and it's just a few steps from completion." And her asterisk, Qin Yan, she just started a few days ago. Before that she just stayed home cooking and watching her child. Giving the project to her isn't that just pushing everything into a ditch? But I knew exactly what frightened Fang Lan wasn't whether the project succeeded or failed. What she feared was her dream of 10 million being shattered right before her eyes. My friend was about to speak for me, but I stood up, raised my head, and faced them. I looked directly at Fang Lan, my voice calm but full of power. "Fang Lan, my previous lack of participation in work doesn't mean I lack ability. I have thoroughly understood this collaborative project from beginning to end, and this company was co-founded by Wen Jing and me. Who are you to criticize so loudly here?" For the first time in my life, I truly felt the sensation of having a solid backing, allowing me to act without reservation. Zhang Baichuan was completely oblivious to my shareholding in the company. When he learned the truth that I was one of the owners, he froze, his mouth agape, unable to utter a single word. But unfortunately, that shock came too late. We were no longer husband and wife. After a moment of stunned silence, anger immediately surged in Zhang Baichuan's eyes. He had often tried to leverage his relationship with Wen Jing to advance, while I always maintained a cool attitude, frequently mocking him without mercy. Now that he knew I was also an investor, how could he not be furious? However, Zhang Baichuan wasn't as foolish as Fang Lan. He was clear-headed enough to understand that impulsive behavior at this moment would bring no benefit. Instead of losing his temper, he chose to temporarily retreat a step, waiting for an opportunity to counterattack. He grabbed Fang Lan's hand, pulled her down, and whispered, "Lan Lan, the most important thing now is to retain control of the project. Don't let Chin Yan provoke you and lose control. She's in charge now. Causing trouble with her won't do us any good." I stood not far away, hearing every word he said as clearly as if a loudspeaker were beside me. Then Zhang Baichuan stood up, his face trying to curry favor, his voice unusually soft. "Ms. Chin, we genuinely welcome your participation in this project. It's just that from the beginning until now, Fang Lan has been directly in charge, and the progress is almost complete. If we change personnel now, I'm afraid it will affect the timeline. How about we continue to manage it, and you can supervise whenever you deem necessary?" His words were smooth as oil, truly befitting someone who had navigated the business world for 7 years. But no matter how eloquent he was, this time, he and Fang Lan had no way out. Director Yang suddenly stood up, his voice cold as ice. "Zhang Baichuan, your contract is officially terminated. You abused your position and colluded with Fang Lan to personally profit from the project, causing serious losses to the company. Both of you should prepare to face the law." The smile on Zhang Baichuan's lips vanished. He couldn't believe all their illicit activities had been exposed. Fang Lan wasn't as good at keeping calm as he was. Her face was ashen, her hands trembling uncontrollably. Every gaze in the meeting room gradually shifted to scrutiny. Everyone had clearly seen the true nature of their relationship. While Zhang Baichuan was still scrambling for excuses, the police unexpectedly appeared. "Zhang Baichuan, Fang Lan, you're both arrested for abusing your positions to embezzle company assets. All evidence has been fully collected." Before being led away, Fang Lan, as if driven mad, shrieked at me. "Chin Yan, you despicable woman, you deserve to raise someone else's child for 7 years. Don't think you're innocent. Karma won't let you off." I smiled faintly, waving my hand gently. "Whether I have karma or not, I don't know, but yours has clearly come knocking." After the incident, Director Yang and I sat down to review all the consequences left by those two, and quickly developed an alternative plan to ensure progress. Before leaving, he thanked me profusely. "This time, we truly owe it to you, Ms. Chin, for intervening at the right moment. Otherwise, this project might have caused us to lose everything." I walked him to the door and simply replied, "This is a shared responsibility. When your company faces issues, we can't stand idly by." No need for thanks. In the following days, I fully dedicated myself to work, no longer paying attention to trivial matters. I also didn't forget my promise to Xiao Zhu's mother. A friendship had long blossomed between us. We frequently discussed work, and she even proactively suggested a collaboration. She once said, "I feel very secure with you by my side. You make me feel that everything can be resolved." Xiao Zhu also lived up to expectations. With close guidance, she completed her elementary school curriculum ahead of schedule. Occasionally, she still mentioned Yiming. After Zhang Baichuan and I divorced, Fang Lan immediately cut off Yiming's private school education. Now, both Fang Lan and Zhang Baichuan were in prison, and the child was pushed around by relatives like an unwanted item. Zhang Baichuan's mother had vanished without a trace. Faced with this situation, I merely smiled faintly, no longer bothered. Old affairs no longer concerned me. If Yiming had valued affection and treated me kindly back then, perhaps I would still have some lingering concern and care for him. But all ties he had severed with his own hands. 7 years devoted to being a full-time mother finally came to an end. One must learn to move on, to look forward. I grew stronger with each passing day, and I truly cherish the current version of myself.